You know, I really wish I could subvert y'all expectations here, but y'all know what time it is. Before we hop in this review of chapter 309 of My Hero Academia, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts in the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got the pencil here, and here we are to review chapter 309 of My Hero Academia, aka I Can't Stay Being a Child. So let's talk about it. Here's the thing, we open up with two just random heroes. Like, have we seen these guys before? I don't ever remember seeing these guys before. Boomerang Man and Mr. Smith. I don't know if we've ever seen them, but they're here apparently. And we just see Midoriya dropping off Muscular. The civilians actually do help out the heroes, but it's on the condition that they leave them alone. They just basically operate as independent parties. They aren't gonna let Shindo die, but they aren't gonna like work with the heroes at all. They're just saving this man's life because they don't want to have murder or blood on their hands. I think that's cool. I'm glad that they've come to some sort of agreement. Like, they aren't gonna leave, and obviously if they have left, well, Muscular probably would have killed them. So I guess this is a good balance here. I'm glad that this worked out. And we see that they kind of recognize Midoriya, but they don't recognize Midoriya because he's so different from that time. However, we'll get into that. So Midoriya brings back Muscular. They drop him off, and the Diana Police Precinct. How are they expected to hold Muscular? They better have some quirk suppressants, because the moment that man wakes up, I know his muscle tendons are all like torn up and stuff like that, but he's gonna heal for a little bit and then break free again. So I'm not sure what the strat here was, Midoriya. Like, you could have dropped him off to someone much more secure, but I don't know, maybe the Diana Police Precinct is just like the most secure place ever. So let's just rock with that. Midoriya leaves out. He's covering himself with a constant smoke screen, and question about that. Isn't he registered? Doesn't he have a provisional license? Because as we see in this chapter, unlike what we thought, Midoriya isn't actually a full vigilante. He isn't. He's still working with All Might. He's just not at UA anymore. So doesn't he have his provisional license? Can this like count as an internship under like the top 3 heroes right now? Why does he have to be so hidden? And I guess the idea he has to be so hidden is so Shigaraki doesn't find him. But as the chapter goes to point out, Shigaraki can literally find him whenever he wants because he can literally sense where One For All is. So I'm not necessarily sure what the correlation between hiding Midoriya's actions and not hiding Midoriya's actions. Like, what's the point? Like, Shigaraki's gonna find him anyway, so why bother going through all this extra legwork? But that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Yo, Midoriya, I really like this new design, like the torn mask, the torn up suit, and the cape flowing behind him, and like the blacking out of his eyes. Once again, it gives me a lot of the All Might aesthetic, but as we find out in this chapter, it really is just an aesthetic. So he lands back with All Might, and I like how Midoriya is slowly becoming more and more used to his power set. Like, this is something I do like just in general, how Midoriya is like more smoothly flowing between powers. Like, he's using float to levitate. First he leaps out of smoke, then he goes into float, allows this smooth glide transition, picks up the phone, and then lands. I think, does he still have the phone in hand? No, he doesn't have the phone in hand, but he lands casually and pulls to a complete stop, squatting deep into it. I like how his motions are becoming more and more fluid. That was one of the things I had issues with Midoriya in the past, where he felt very, very rigid. Like, he wasn't very used to his power set, but now that he's getting more used to it, he's flowing better in and out of powers, and I like that a lot. It's very, very smooth. All Might, he hides in a back alley, he comes back up, and we see that Midoriya's arms aren't actually looking skinnier for any like medical reason. He's just using a support item, basically. It's keeping his muscles compressed so he doesn't go all out. It basically just reinforces his arm for him, so it kind of like shuts down any pain he would feel if he was to use too much power. I guess it's just like an extra thing of like the gloves, but no, the gloves don't really. And in fact, I don't even think he has the gloves anymore. Yeah, I guess he just uses Air Force without it, or he's not using Air Force. Maybe he just didn't use Air Force. I don't think he has yet. So he's just relying on this new tool that suppresses the power, and like, not suppresses the power, keeps his muscles compressed along the lines where it'll hold off any pain he feels from using One For All, but at the same time, he can't use 100%. So he obviously body bagged Muscular with less than 100% because the prototype held up. And the thing is, we get a call in from Best Boy, aka Endeavor and Hawks. I know it's from Hawks, so second Best Boy. And we see that Hawks is literally like, yo, not gonna lie, I understand the meta, like, you're trying to keep a close eye on him, you're trying to stay close and protective, but that isn't the best way to do things, because you are a weak target, All Might. You need to figure out what is going on and maybe not keep yourself in the open. He's basically suggesting that All Might go to UA, and I understand them. I understand the reasoning, but what I don't get is like, this is very much one of the chapters. Thank you to the person last week who explained to me how the official translation was different. I'm obviously reading a fan translation, so think about reading the fan translation. Sometimes I think this is a big chapter where I hope the official translation does a lot better at translating what Horikoshi initially meant, because there's so many things in this chapter I'm like, this feels weird upon reading, so I'm definitely going to read the official version. If anything significant changes, including my opinion after reading the official chapter, I'll drop it in the comment section afterwards. I'll leave it in a pinned comment or something like that. But basically, from what I can tell, Hawks doesn't even know who broke into Tartarus, and like, is it really that difficult to figure out? It was Shigaraki with the Nomus. Like, what? Like, what's the problem here? Like, people really thinking that it's other characters other than All For One Shigaraki? Like, who else could have done it? But I guess they just don't know. So whatever. And the weird thing is, Hawks is asking, but I request that you work together with us. And I'm like, aren't y'all already working together? I'm just rather confused. But here's the thing. We flash back to Midoriya getting his body healed again. And I'm not even going to talk about this just yet. We're going to talk about this in a bit. So he gets healed with this Mario man. Like, yo, Horikoshi, you aren't slick. That's literally just Mario. You ain't slick, bro. But we see some weird explanation of why his body able to be healed. And my favorite part of the chapter pops up. We see that Midoriya feels guilty about everyone being hurt, and for that reason, he's not going back to UA, no matter how much more protected he would be there due to Shigaraki's ability to find him anywhere, and he feels legitimate guilt. He doesn't want to see people get hurt anymore, so he's going to run off. He's basically going to be on the move away from UA so no one there can get harmed, at the expense of all the people he doesn't know getting harmed when Shigaraki comes for him anyway, but that doesn't matter. He doesn't know those people, so it doesn't really matter. And here's the thing. He's talking about how he needs to stop Shigaraki and All For One before Shigaraki reaches his final form, but he's kind of just running around at the moment. Like, he's not actively hunting down Shigaraki, at least as far as I can tell, and he's just talking about he's gonna get stronger. And as his mom clearly states, that's not really a plan. You're basically just waiting to die. What are you doing? And I really like this moment because this is like a beautiful panel right here. Like, seeing the comparison, like, this is once again where like the art, like, you could have had, this could have been a wordless panel, but it's fine that Horikoshi put words on there. Like, the way that all the dynamics shift, like when they were younger, Inko was hugging Midoriya, pulling him close, Izuku might, and then now that it's older, he's still smiling, proving his fortitude, and he's taller now in the bed, so he's pulling her in for a hug rather than her pulling him in for a hug. It's like it's a great dynamic shift over the years, and it really is a good transition into Izuku being a hero, and I like that. That is beautiful storytelling right there. I like this, and this is really, really good. So we move on from that, and we have All Might flashback to his promise to Inko, and honestly, I kind of get where All Might's coming from. So All Might wants to support Midoriya, I guess, pseudo from the shadows, but not really from the shadows. He's going to be active, and here's the thing. We see that Midoriya is essentially the bait for Shigaraki to track down. So Midoriya is acting as bait, but he's also trying to get stronger, but he's also trying to stop Shigaraki from even reaching his true form. Like, that's why I believe, hopefully the official translation clears this up a bit, because so many different things seem to be happening. Like, there's a plan of Midoriya just going around being pseudo-vigilante, doing things in the secret shadows, but there's also the idea that he's bait for a full power Shigaraki to come hunt him down, but at the same time he wants to stop Shigaraki from even reaching his final form. Like, there's so many conflicting ideas here that I'm not sure the fan translation caught properly. At least I hope. If this is exactly what it's like in the official translation, then I'm just confused. I'm not gonna lie. And we see that all the top 3 heroes are like, we're gonna stay close to Midoriya in case he ever needs the support when Shigaraki pops up. And I understand that. That's a good mentality to have, but not gonna lie, it took way more heroes to even slow down an incomplete Shigaraki. So what do y'all really think you 3 plus unmastered Midoriya are gonna do against a full power Shigaraki? Like, I understand Midoriya has months and months to train, but I don't know. I feel like a perfected Shigaraki, if he really was already as strong as All Might according to Endeavor, what are y'all really gonna do to him? Like, that's just a legitimate question for me, but hey, it's the plan, because they have no other plan really, and I can't even blame them for that. Then we see Gran Torino is in fact still alive. Shout outs to whoever called it that he's not dead yet, and he just sacrificed his cape to Midoriya, and I'm glad Gran Torino says it. As for you, kiddo, don't be too stubborn on redeeming Shigaraki. Sometimes death can be a form of salvation too. He's basically telling Midoriya, okay, don't be dumb. If you have a chance to kill the cockroach, kill it. Do not let it get back up, go stronger, and cause way more damage to your household. Stop it. Don't worry about saving him too much. And I think there's another thing I want to read the official translation for, because it specifically uses the word redeeming here. And Midoriya wasn't really talking about redeeming, he was talking about saving, but me and a lot of other people interpreted his saving of Shigaraki as redemption. So if it's like this, and like Midoriya doesn't refute Gran Torino here, and he's like actually thinking about redeeming Shigaraki, then way more problems pop up, rather than the general idea of saving Shigaraki and beating him down, like actually redeeming him. But we're gonna see official translation, I'm gonna hold off judgment on that. I've become a lot more passive about trusting these fan translations, because big stuff changes in official translation, so I'll wait. And it's cool to see the whole top 3 squad, plus Deku and All Might, they all team up, and they're all going to repay the favor to the League of Villains. Here's the thing, they're all getting bopped. Okay, but let's actually talk about some aspects of the chapter. Biggest thing I need to tackle, I know, y'all don't like it when I complain about logic and stuff like that, but this is not just a logic thing, this is also just a storytelling thing. But I'll hop into the logic thing first. At least for me, it doesn't make sense. Well, no, it makes sense that Horikoshi nonsensed off Midoriya's injuries, because he wasn't planning to end the story there. So he couldn't stick to his word that if Midoriya broke his body down again, that he would be done for, because he can't do that to his main protagonist. He basically threw that sentence in there to get us worried, like he always does, but he puts us on a rug that doesn't really matter, and that always annoys me. Just don't do it. That's the thing I don't get. If you're going to have consequences in the narrative that don't even matter, don't put them in the narrative in the first place. I only have problems with this moment because of what Horikoshi himself established. Horikoshi is a fantastic user of the toolbox method. Horikoshi is a great storyteller, but I think he has a very big issue of putting in these non-issues, these non-consequences, like these non-risks. Like, what's the point? I wouldn't be complaining here if it was never established that Midoriya couldn't move again. And here's the thing, the doctor tries to write it off as if, oh, the internal damage didn't happen this time. So I was like, maybe I'm tripping, because you see, Horikoshi is very particular here. I thought it was like sort of based off of like the black whip circulation he was doing around his arm, kind of like the muscle compression thing. Like, you know how the support tool wraps around his arm and suppresses his muscles, so he's not actually using full power. I saw that in the specific panel that Horikoshi pulled for this little flashback here, that he shows black whip, at least I assume that's black whip, wrapping around Midoriya's arm, sort of compressing the damage. Kind of like a, not a splint, is it a splint? Like where you lock the bones in place so they can refuse together properly. I can kind of get where he's coming from, but then I quickly ran back to the War Arc real quick and looked. Yeah, Midoriya didn't do that for his 100% smashes with his right arm, so he shouldn't have a right arm right now. But obviously he has to have it because punching is very part of Midoriya's thing. So Horikoshi put in a consequence that wasn't actually a consequence, that doesn't even matter. And he tries to just write it off with quirk nonsense. And that's the thing, quirks, slowly but surely, are becoming more and more nebulous. And I already understood they were a rather nebulous concept to begin with. It's not like we had any real established rules about quirks, but now they're just being used to write off everything. Because if you don't fully understand it, it doesn't have to have logical consistency within your narrative. And I think that's bad. I'd never want, like, quirks are slowly approaching. They haven't gotten there yet, but with the way that all these different quirk worlds and the afterlife and the ability to negate damage and all this eternal, ooh, the constant quirk evolution, the quirk nebula, it's starting to sound like midichlorians. It's starting to sound like the Force in the sequel trilogy. Like, the quirks can solve anything and everything, but they're also the problem about anything and everything. That's what quirks are starting to approach, and I don't want that. Like, quirks were a very cool power system to start with, but the more and more you add into it, the more and more, A, you're likely to forget, and B, you just confuse. Like, keep things, you didn't have to get things this complicated, at least in my mind. And who knows, I'm probably tripping. This probably isn't a problem. And I understand if it isn't a problem for y'all. Never let something that's a problem for me be a problem for y'all. I'm here telling you what I think and why I have problems with it. So my only request to Horikoshi is stop doing this. Stop just get rid of the consequence at this point, because it's not a consequence. All this is, and is all these changes are aesthetic changes that we don't even get to see half the time, because Midoriya is usually covering his scars up. So just stop. Just get rid of it. Let Midoriya master it already. Just get rid of the repercussions. Because every time you do it, and every time you tell him to still be careful, don't do too much, blah, 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 I'm still gonna wait. I'm still gonna be concerned. Because Horikoshi, you're so good at building things up like this, but you just, you fumble the bag most of the time when it comes to specifically consequences. You're very good at build-ups and payoffs. Like, you're good at setting up things that lead to positive things, but you're never good about sticking to your consequences for any of your characters, really, because you just don't want to. And I understand that, but then just remove any consequence setup. Then I won't have problems with it. That's where my issue comes in. If you put something in your narrative that you tell me to watch out for, and I watch out for it, and then suddenly it's revealed that I didn't have to watch out for it, that's where my problems kick in. And I know y'all may disagree, and I'm perfectly fine with that. We're good to have our own opinions, but that'll always bother me. That knocks the chapter down a point for me. 2, we have all these different objectives for Midoriya. He's bait. He's trying to stop Shigaraki before he reaches his perfection. He's trying to save people as a vigilante, but not really, because he's working with All Might. So many different directions. Once again, this could just be a fan translation thing, so I'm not going to dock too many points off the chapter for that, because it just could be off. But it sounds like Midoriya is doing 3 different things that kind of correlate, but don't correlate at all. Seems weird. Another thing, why was this not... This chapter should have been chapter... Let's see. Last chapter was... This chapter should have preceded the entire time skip. Because why doesn't it? This makes more sense. Like, I understand non-linear storytelling. But now it just seems like that end little time jump was a waste. Because Midoriya is still the same person. He hasn't actually changed. The only thing that's changed is that he's not going back to UA. But he's obviously the same fundamental character that he is. He just has a few more questions in his head. And honestly, that's nowhere near as interesting. Like, Midoriya is still doing better as a character. Like, I like that he's thinking harder. I like that his quirk movement is becoming more natural. He's becoming more used to it. I like all that. But Midoriya, the character, he's still the same. He doesn't, and like, notably, like, I remember when the chapter a few weeks back, I think it was 306 or 305, came out, and we saw the darkness in Midoriya's eyes. I like that, because it showed, like, growth, thought, depth, depression, something tangible that I could latch onto and greatly appreciate to watch. It's gone. Like, Midoriya still has the same brightness in his eyes. And, like, that's the point. Once again, Midoriya is a symbol. He's not necessarily a character, but, like, then don't bait me. Like, that's another thing where the toolbox method kind of fails, because it's like a reverse toolbox method. We leap into the future, only to leap back into the past, but this non-linear storytelling doesn't do any good for the narrative. At least not for me. Like, I understand the perks of non-linear storytelling. I've read Attack on Titan. Yes, I've read Attack on Titan. But the thing is, what Attack on Titan will do that My Hero Academia won't do is it will legitimately have moments of where non-linear storytelling serves the narrative. This doesn't really serve the narrative for me. It just breaks the pace of something we were going on. I was very intrigued to see Midoriya out in the world, and he is out in the world, but then we do this flashback. Why have the flashback now, especially if it's so... If it was so, it would be so much easier and so much more smooth flowing if this was just the chapter afterwards when Midoriya woke up. Like, right after the One for All mess, this is what was happening. And then we leap into Midoriya, little time skip and stuff like that. Because then it feels like it would flow better than me. Who knows? I'm probably nuts. That's the thing. I may just be tripping, and I completely understand that. So maybe y'all don't have a problem with this. You think this is a perfect use of non-linear storytelling, and I understand that. Me, it just throws me off. However, there are things I love about this chapter. I love seeing Midoriya get more used to his body and his quirks. I love seeing the interactions between Inko and Midoriya. I love seeing All Might's dedication to Midoriya. I love seeing the idea that the 3 heroes really are working together. They're traveling like a unison pack. I love seeing all this good stuff. But, like, it's the manner of storytelling. It's the way that things are done. And it's the way that things are conveyed that will always throw me off. So this chapter, despite having so many things I love about it, gets like a 7 to an 8. It's still really good. Like, here's the thing. I don't think I can rate this chapter any lower than that. I'm not saying it's a 6. I'm not saying it's a 5. It's a 7 to an 8. But I just have little logistical problems. I gotta ask, Horikoshi, stop putting in fake problems. Like, just cease. It's not worth it anymore. Remove all consequence, because the more you introduce consequence, the more you're gonna have to write around it or write it off. And I think the more you fluff up quirks as this weird, nebulous power, the more and more complicated it'll get, and the more stupid it's gonna seem. But that's just to me. So, Horikoshi, you can take what I'm saying. I don't, as if Horikoshi's gonna watch this video. But, like, that's the thing. This chapter does so much good for me. It shows me things I love to see. It shows me more of the world growing and evolving into its new state with the opening, with all the third years running around and Shindo, Yo, and all of them working with the civilians. I love that. It shows me more Midoriya adapting to his body. I love that. It shows me All Might and Midoriya bonding. I love that. It shows me Inko and Midoriya bonding. I love that. It shows me the top three being the top three and working together as a unit. I love that. There's so much good stuff in this chapter. So that's what makes the bad stuff, or at least what to me is the bad stuff, stand out even more. Because now I'm like, why is this here? For what reason? What did I do? Like actually, what did I do? I just don't fully get it. Like, I expected it to be written off too. To be fair, I thought it was going to be Eri. So I'm proud Horikoshi's like, he's keeping Eri in the back pocket. Like, I'm confident that Eri's going to do something. Because why keep her in the narrative with her power if you're not going to use that? So I feel like he used his quirk-free get-out-of-jail-free card here, but he's going to use his Eri get-out-of-jail-free card soon. Or maybe never. Actually, if he never uses it, that's hilarious, and I'm actually happy and proud of him. Because he kind of already used it with me, whatever. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the chapter. I'm excited. I'm not even sure what the next chapter is going to be. Like, a lot of us were talking last week about how there's likely going to be Midoriya running through a gauntlet of his villains. Like, he ran into Muscular, he's likely going to run into Overhaul, he's likely going to run into Gentle, he's going to run into every single villain he's had a, like, one-to-one with in a fight-off, and then his final boss, quote-unquote, is going to be Shigaraki. So I get that. This is going to be very, very interesting to see, so I'm assuming that's up next. Who is he going to run into next? Possibly Overhaul. I'm leaning towards Overhaul, because I think Gentle, Overhaul or Stain. But, like, not gonna lie, Midoriya should body Stain at this point. Like, Stain isn't a threat anymore. So I think it may go Muscular, Overhaul, then Stain, then Gentle. So that's my list for who I think is gonna happen. But I've been going on for way too long. Tell me what your thoughts are on the chapter in the comments section down below. Do you think my problems are whack? If so, please tell me. And tell me, and yo, also, if y'all could explain things, like if you could explain like the seemingly like 3 different plots that Midoriya's on, please explain that to me. If that's just a fan translation thing, don't worry about it. I'll figure that out when I read the fan translation, the official translation. If y'all could kind of better explain like the quirk thing to me, like I know Midoriya's biology and anatomy has changed apparently due to his quirk and something like that. If y'all could explain that to me, please do it in the comment section down below. Help me understand, because that's what y'all are there for. I like to talk to y'all and I like to learn from y'all. So please tell me what you guys think about this chapter and explain everything in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.